The story of a black male order bride being rejected for her color until a millionaire farmer saw her as his perfect match carries a powerful motivational and emotional lesson about resilience, for worth, and the importance of genuine love beyond superficial appearances. In a world where judgment based on skin color, status, or background is still common, this narrative reveals the struggles many face when they try to be accepted for who they are. The young woman, full of hope and dreams, was not looking for pity but simply a chance at happiness, companionship, and a family of her own. Yet, she encountered rejection after rejection because of the one thing she could not change: her race. This rejection was not only painful but also a reminder of how unfair society can be. Still, despite the prejudice she endured, she did not let bitterness consume her. Instead, she carried herself with dignity, showing that true strength lies in self-respect and patience even when life feels unkind. On the other hand, the millionaire farmer represents a completely different perspective on love and relationships. Unlike others who judged the bride solely on her appearance, he saw deeper into her heart, her character, and the purity of her intentions. He was not concerned with shallow beauty standards or the judgments of others. Instead, he valued kindness, loyalty, and inner beauty. To him, she was not just another option, but someone who could bring genuine love and companionship into his life. His choice to see her as his perfect match challenges the stereotype that wealth and status always go hand in hand with superficiality. This farmer's decision showed that true wealth lies in the ability to see value in people for who they are and not how the world labels them. The speech built around this story also highlights how resilience pays off. The bride's rejection could have destroyed her confidence, but instead, she stood tall and waited for the right person who would appreciate her. In life, it is often tempting to give up when faced with continuous rejection, but this tale shows that one yes from the right person outweighs 100 no's from those who could never see your worth. Her patience and perseverance became the bridge that connected her to someone who not only accepted her, but also cherished her as his ideal partner. Another layer of this story is the powerful message about challenging societal norms. Prejudice and rejection based on skin color or background have been long-standing issues, but stories like this remind us that love and respect can break through these barriers. The farmer's choice was not just about finding a partner. It was a bold statement that love is colorblind and that true partnership is built on mutual respect, not external factors. Their union becomes a symbol of hope for others who feel marginalized or unseen, proving that their worth is not diminished by rejection, but rather highlighted when the right person recognizes it. At its core, this speech inspires people to believe in themselves and to never measure their value by society's unfair standards. It tells us that rejection is not a reflection of who we are, but of others' inability to see our worth. It encourages patience, resilience, and faith that the right opportunities and people will come into our lives if we remain authentic. The journey of this black male order bride is not just a love story. It is a story of empowerment, self-respect, and the triumph of love over prejudice. It teaches that the true definition of perfection lies not in outward appearances, but in the honesty of the heart and the ability to value others for their inner qualities. Ultimately, the story delivers a timeless message: everyone deserves to be loved and respected for who they truly are. And sometimes it takes just one person with vision and courage to turn rejection into redemption. The struggles of prejudice are at the heart of this story, where a black male order bride faces rejection after rejection not because of who she is as a person, but because of the color of her skin. Each time she applies or is considered by potential suitors, she is turned away before her qualities, dreams, or values are even acknowledged. It is a painful reminder of how deeply rooted racism can be, for not just in obvious ways, but in the subtle choices people make about who they think is worthy of love. She is not denied because she lacks kindness or intelligence, but simply because she does not fit into a narrow and shallow mold of what some people see as acceptable. These struggles eat away at her confidence at times, making her question whether she will ever be given a fair chance to be seen as the full person she truly is. What makes her struggle even more heartbreaking is that she entered the male order bride system with the same hope as anyone else. She wanted stability, 4. Companionship and the chance to build a life with someone who would respect and cherish her. Instead, she is constantly judged by superficial factors beyond her control. This kind of prejudice carries with it a message from society that she is less than others, and that no matter how much love, loyalty, or talent she has to give, it will not be enough to outweigh the bias attached to her race. For anyone who has been treated unfairly because of prejudice, this story reflects the emotional toll it takes to be dismissed without being truly known. Her struggles are also symbolic of a larger issue where people of color often have to work twice as hard just to be recognized on equal footing. It is not just about romance, but about dignity, fairness, and respect. Being rejected over and over again could have easily made her bitter or resentful, but instead, she chooses to endure with patience. This endurance shows the quiet courage of those who live through prejudice daily, yet continue to hold on to hope that one day they will be accepted for who they are. 4. The pain of rejection in her situation is amplified because it deals with the very personal and intimate desire for companionship. Unlike being passed over for a job or opportunity, being told you are unwanted as a partner because of your color cuts directly to the heart. It suggests that you are unworthy of love, and that is one of the deepest wounds prejudice can create. But in the middle of this struggle lies her greatest strength. She refuses to let the prejudice of others define her worth. Even though doors close in her face, she keeps moving forward, holding on to the belief that her value is not determined by someone else's inability to see her. The story also exposes the hypocrisy of many who claim to be searching for good values in a bride. While they spoke of wanting loyalty, patience, and kindness, their actions revealed that they cared more about superficial appearances than true character. Her rejection is therefore not a reflection of her shortcomings, but of their narrow-mindedness. The more she faces prejudice, the clearer it becomes that the issue is with society, not with her. In highlighting these struggles, the story shines a light on the hidden resilience it takes to live with dignity in the face of racism. Her pain is not just personal, but universal to many who have been rejected for who they are on the outside rather than the beauty they hold within. Yet, by continuing to stand firm, she sends a quiet but powerful message. Prejudice can bruise the heart, but it cannot extinguish the spirit of someone who knows her worth. This resilience is what eventually leads her to the farmer who sees past the barriers others have built. But her struggle beforehand is what makes that moment so meaningful. The turning point in this story comes with the arrival of the millionaire farmer, a man whose perspective is shaped not by shallow prejudices, but by his ability to see people for who they truly are. Unlike the many suitors before him, he is not blinded by the color of her skin or the biases of society. Instead, he looks deeper, noticing qualities of strength, patience, resilience, and kindness that others ignored. This is where the story takes on a new light, because it shows how one person's ability to recognize true worth can change not only the course of another person's life, but also challenge the ugly foundations of prejudice that rejected her in the first place. When the farmer first learns of her situation, he does not approach her with pity but with admiration. He sees a woman who, despite being turned away countless times, still carries herself with dignity. That resilience captures his attention in a way that wealth, appearance, or status never could. To him, she represents qualities far more valuable than what society places on the surface. While others dismissed her as unworthy, he sees her as extraordinary, not because of grand gestures or outward beauty, but because of the quiet strength that radiates from her character. His perspective is what makes him stand apart, proving that wisdom and true understanding come from looking beyond appearances. This moment also reflects the deeper theme of humanity, the ability to see with the heart rather than the eyes. The farmer's ability to cut through the noise of prejudice shows how people can choose to rise above social conditioning. While others were shackled by inherited biases, he makes a conscious choice to value integrity, loyalty, and emotional strength. This is what gives the story its transformative power. It highlights the idea that change begins when individuals decide to break away from unjust norms and instead focus on truth and authenticity. For the bride, this shift in perspective is life-altering. For the first time, she experiences what it feels like to be seen fully and genuinely. Instead of being measured against superficial standards, she is recognized for her true value. This validation does more than heal the wounds of past rejection. It restores her belief that love rooted in respect and acceptance is possible. Through the farmer's perspective, she realizes that her struggles, while painful, have also made her into the strong woman he now admires. In a way, for every rejection prepared her for the moment someone worthy of her love would finally come along. The farmer's perspective also challenges the audience to reflect on their own values. It forces us to question how often we, too, judge others without giving them the chance to reveal who they really are. It reminds us that prejudice is not always loud or violent. Sometimes it is quiet and subtle, showing up in the decisions we make about who we accept and who we exclude. By choosing to see her worth, the farmer demonstrates what it means to reject those ingrained biases and embrace a higher standard of humanity. This recognition also creates a ripple effect beyond their personal relationship. In their union, society is forced to confront its hypocrisy. The very woman who was dismissed by so many becomes the chosen partner of a wealthy, respected man. Her worth, once ignored, is now undeniable, and that forces others to question why they could not see it before. It highlights how prejudice blinds people to the richness of human character, and how tragic it is that so many lives are limited because of it. Ultimately, the farmer's perspective is a lesson in empathy, vision, and courage. It takes empathy to feel beyond the surface, vision to recognize true value, and courage to go against the judgment of society. By embodying these qualities, he becomes more than just a love interest in her story. He becomes a symbol of the possibility of change in a world tainted by discrimination. His acceptance does not erase the pain of her past, but it proves that love and recognition are possible when someone dares to see beyond prejudice. Breaking social barriers has always been one of the most difficult yet transformative aspects of human progress, and this story of the black mail-order bride and the millionaire farmer is a strong reflection of that reality. For generations, society has built walls of prejudice, defining people's worth by race, class, or social background rather than character and humanity. The rejection she faced at first was not just personal. It was symbolic of the broader social system that told her she was not good enough simply because of her color. But when the millionaire farmer chose to embrace her with love and respect, he was not only starting a relationship, but also challenging the very foundation of those unjust social divisions. Their union became an act of rebellion against the norms that had held people apart for so long. The moment the farmer declared her as his choice, he created a disruption in the expectations of others. People around them, who had internalized the idea that someone of his wealth and status should never choose someone society to lesser, were forced to rethink their beliefs. Suddenly, the woman they had dismissed and ridiculed was not just accepted but celebrated by a man of high standing. This act itself was a crack in the wall of prejudice, proving that love can serve as a powerful tool to dismantle barriers. The relationship became more than personal. It became a public statement about equality, dignity, and the absurdity of basing human value on superficial factors. For the woman, this was liberation from the weight of rejection. For too long, she had been treated as if her skin tone defined her future, as though love and respect were luxuries she could not deserve. But the farmer's acceptance shattered that narrative and redefined her identity in the eyes of society. Instead of being seen as a victim of rejection, she was now seen as a partner chosen for qualities that went beyond what the world could see on the surface. She became a living example of resilience and proof that no barrier is strong enough to hold back someone whose worth is recognized by the right person. This breaking of barriers also inspires others who witness their union. Those who had also felt limited by race, class, or social stigma suddenly have an example that their lives are not defined by societal prejudice. The farmer's decision echoes loudly, teaching that courage and love can carve new paths where discrimination has built walls. It shows that every act of acceptance, every relationship built on mutual respect, is a chance to redefine what is possible. The story, therefore, carries weight not only for the individuals directly involved, but also for anyone watching, for encouraging them to question the stereotypes and social boundaries in their own lives. It is important to understand that breaking social barriers is not always easy. and the farmer and the bride likely faced whispers, criticism, and even outright opposition from people unwilling to accept their love. But their strength lay in their refusal to let those voices dictate their happiness. They understood that real change often begins with discomfort. By choosing to stay together and face the resistance, they modeled courage and determination. Their story reveals that love is not just about personal fulfillment, but also about taking a stand against injustice, for proving that compassion and truth have the power to reshape societies. The symbolism of their union goes even deeper. It demonstrates that wealth, privilege, and status mean nothing if they are used to uphold prejudice, but they can mean everything if used to challenge injustice. The millionaire farmer's decision to see her as his perfect partner illustrates that privilege, when coupled with empathy, has the power to dismantle barriers instead of reinforcing them. In this way, he used his position not to maintain the status quo, but to create a new narrative where equality and love were prioritized. Ultimately, their story teaches that breaking social barriers is not just about romance. It is about rewriting what society accepts as normal. Every barrier broken opens doors for others to walk through. Every act of courage chips away at walls built by generations of prejudice. And every love story that defies discrimination becomes a beacon of hope for those still trapped by the same struggles. The bride and farmer's journey is therefore more than a personal victory. It is a reminder that the strongest revolutions often begin in the quiet courage of individuals who choose to love against all odds. Hope is one of the most powerful forces in human life. And this story of the black mail order bride and the millionaire farmer is at its heart a message of hope and empowerment. When she first entered the path of becoming a mail-order bride, she likely carried with her dreams of acceptance, security, and love, but what she faced instead was rejection after rejection simply because of her skin color. Each rejection chipped away at her spirit. Each cruel dismissal reminded her of the prejudice that seemed to surround her future. It would have been easy for her to surrender to bitterness, to believe that the world had no place for her, and to give up on the idea of ever being loved for who she truly was. Yet even in her lowest moments, she continued to hold on to a fragile thread of hope, and that decision made all the difference. Empowerment often comes from resilience, and resilience is born in the fires of hardship. The strength she gained from rejection prepared her for the moment when the right person would finally come into her life. While society may have tried to define her as unworthy, she defined herself through her perseverance. When the millionaire farmer saw her, he did not see a defeated woman, but someone who had endured pain and still carried herself with dignity. That strength and quiet determination became the very qualities that made her shine. In this way, her story is a reminder that rejection does not define us, but instead can refine us, preparing us for opportunities that are greater than we imagine. The empowerment in this story is not just hers alone, but also for everyone who feels trapped under the weight of prejudice. For every person who has been told they are not good enough because of their race, class, gender, or background, this story becomes a mirror of possibility. It declares that rejection is not the end, but sometimes the very path that leads to something better. The farmer's acceptance validates not only her worth, but also the worth of countless others who have been silenced or overlooked. For it proves that no matter how many people may fail to see your value, there is always someone who will recognize and honor it. Hope also transforms because it is contagious. When others see her being embraced as perfect by the farmer, it challenges the hopelessness that prejudice breeds. Those who witness their union are forced to confront the truth that love can rise above color, class, or in societal expectations. It plants the idea in others that perhaps they, too, can find acceptance in unexpected places. Hope spreads when someone dares to live authentically, and empowerment grows when someone chooses not to hide, but to shine in spite of rejection. At a deeper level, the empowerment here is spiritual as well as emotional. For it is the kind of empowerment that comes when someone realizes their worth was never dependent on the validation of others in the first place. The farmer's acceptance was beautiful and transformative, but her worth existed long before he recognized it. What changed was that his love gave the world no choice but to finally see what had always been true. For anyone listening to this story, the lesson is clear. Your value is not determined by society's blindness, but by your own inherent dignity. This story also empowers by flipping the narrative of prejudice. Instead of remaining a victim of rejection, she became a symbol of triumph. Instead of being hidden away as someone undeserving, she became the chosen partner of a respected man. Her life is proof that those who reject you often do so not because you lack value, but because their vision is too small to see it. Empowerment comes when you stop allowing their blindness to become your truth. In the end, this story is both a warning and a promise. It warns us of the destruction caused by prejudice and shallow judgment, but it also promises that hope, resilience, and patience can lead to transformation. The black male order bride's journey is a reminder to never let rejection kill the belief that love and acceptance are possible. Her life was not defined by the many people who dismissed her, but by the one person who truly saw her. That is the essence of hope and the source of empowerment that her story continues to inspire. True love has the power to transform lives. And in this story of the black mail order bride and the millionaire farmer, the ultimate message lies in the triumph of love over prejudice. At the beginning, the bride's journey was filled with rejection, humiliation, and loneliness. She entered the mail order bride system with the hope of being accepted for who she was, but instead, she was treated as though her color made her unworthy of affection or respect. Each rejection cut deeply, reminding her that society had built walls around her happiness. But what seemed like an endless road of disappointment was, in truth, preparing her for a love that would be genuine, lasting, and profound. The millionaire farmer's choice to see her as his perfect partner was more than a romantic gesture. It was an act of defiance against the narrow views of those who had dismissed her. He didn't look at her skin and see rejection. He looked at her heart and saw beauty, kindness, and strength. In that recognition, the prejudice that had once defined her story crumbled. For the first time, she was valued not for what she could change or hide, but for who she truly was. That moment was not just the beginning of love, but the triumph of authenticity over discrimination. The victory of their love also highlights the truth that the human heart cannot be dictated by societal rules. People may try to enforce boundaries based on race, class, or background, but love thrives in breaking down those barriers. In this case, their connection proved stronger than any prejudice standing in their way. It sent a message to those watching that love, when it is real, refuses to bow to injustice. It grows where others say it cannot, and it flourishes even in the harshest soil. That is what makes it powerful. It does not need permission to exist, only courage to endure. This triumph also reshaped the way the bride saw herself. For so long, she may have carried the weight of rejection, wondering if perhaps she truly was unworthy. Yet through his love, she learned that rejection was never about her lack of value, but about the blindness of others. His acceptance helped her reclaim her dignity and reminded her that she had always been worthy of love, even before he arrived. This transformation is what makes love such a powerful healer. It restores what prejudice tries to break. For the farmer, the love he found was equally transformative. While others settled for shallow measures of beauty or status, he discovered the joy of a bond built on character, for trust and resilience. By choosing her, he didn't just gain a partner, he gained a love that carried depth and truth. His decision revealed that true fulfillment comes not from following society's expectations, but from honoring the call of one's own heart. The triumph of their story does not stop with them. It ripples outward, challenging everyone who witnesses it to question their own biases. Those who once rejected her are left to reflect on their actions, confronted with the reality that the woman they dismissed has become celebrated and cherished. Their love becomes a mirror, exposing the ugliness of prejudice while illuminating the beauty of acceptance. For others who have been rejected, it becomes a beacon of hope, proof that patience and resilience can lead to love that is not only real but extraordinary. Ultimately, the triumph of love over prejudice is a reminder that no wall built by society is stronger than the power of genuine connection. Love does not ask about color or background, it only seeks truth and compatibility. In their story, love won not because it ignored the barriers, but because it confronted and overcame them. That is why it resonates so deeply. It tells us that no matter how dark the road may seem, there is always a possibility for love to shine through and rewrite the story.